Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss some of the latest reporting on Kemi Badenoch, who's one of the favourites, if not the favourite, to succeed Rishi Sunak as Conservative Party leader. Essentially, although I think she is different to Liz Truss in many ways, I don't think she's as certifiably insane, for example, but due to her inexperience combined with raging arrogance, I do think she's going to come across just as badly to the public were she to be made leader. She's just as much of a political idiot, just for different reasons. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So if we look at Liz Truss's favourability ratings, first of all, according to Ipsos, she's currently on -60. This is comprised of 8% having a favourable view of her and 68% unfavourable. But this is entirely the result of being given the top job and then crashing and burning. Before Boris Johnson announced his resignation, although there weren't a lot of people with a favourable view of her, there weren't that many with an unfavourable view either. The reason was that about half the population had no firm view on her at all. They just didn't know. They were willing to give her the benefit of the doubt because most people don't really pay much attention to what goes on in Parliament, so would not really have seen her in action. But I had. I'd seen her torn to pieces at the dispatch box by different members of the Labour front bench. So when she stepped up and was suddenly being torn to pieces by journalists in interviews, which the public were going to see, it was no surprise to me. I'd said on the channel, she is simply hopeless in debates. She'll be badly exposed if she became leader. Yes, what ultimately cemented her record as the country's shortest serving Prime Minister was that disastrous mini budget, but her approval rating was already suffering long before then. Her performance in the TV debates and interviews of the Tory party leadership in that summer of 2022 was giving the public a clearer view of her, and they weren't impressed. Between Johnson announcing his resignation and Truss becoming Prime Minister, her approval rating went from roughly -10 to roughly -25. Before she'd even made her first speech as Prime Minister, her approval rating had already collapsed. The same, I think, is going to happen with Kemi Badenoch. Now, she'll never end up at Liz Truss levels of -60 because, well, first, she may not be quite insane enough to implement a policy which does the damage that Truss did, but also I don't think she's actually going to get the opportunity. Kemi Badenoch may become Conservative Party leader. I don't think she's going to become Prime Minister. Just as with Liz Truss, though, I've seen Badenoch in Parliament. In the debates, which most of the public won't bother watching, if anything, I would say she's even more arrogant than Johnson or Sunak ever were, and that's really quite remarkable. For example, when the Speaker has in the past admonished Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak for something, even though they clearly don't like being challenged, they're very petulant people, they have tended to defer to the Speaker's authority. They've made a fake apology and then carried on with their poor behaviour anyway. I once, I saw the same thing happen with Badenoch. And she actually argued with the Speaker. I've never seen Hoyle so genuinely pissed off, and Hoyle is not very good at being angry. I've put a link to the clip in the description below. It's worth watching. I'm not sure I've seen anything like it, really. And her behaviour on that occasion speaks to two aspects of her suitability to lead, or in this case, unsuitability. First, she is incredibly arrogant. She's only been an MP since 2017. She only became a cabinet minister at the arse end of 2022. Yet about a year ago, when she'd only been an MP for, 6 years and a cabinet minister for not even 1 year, she felt able to have an argument with the Speaker of the House, who'd been a member of Parliament for over 25 years at this point, on parliamentary procedures. Second, she's very naive. Sometimes you can actually be right, or at least think you're right, genuinely believe you're right, but you still have to defer if it's not clear to most people that you are indeed in the right, or just, you may have to defer to your boss. Your boss might be an idiot. They might actually be an idiot and you might be right, but it's your boss, right? Johnson and Sunak knew this. They knew how to play the game. They knew who they had to defer to and who they didn't, whether or not they thought they were in the right. And those people always think they're in the right. Badenoch doesn't have that distinction. She lacks any sense of nuance or subtlety, which suggests she's going to tread on an awful lot of toes as leader. But then there's the latest reports on her. Now, because I'm not recording this video just because she's the bookie's favourite to the next Conservative leader, therefore I better talk about her. The time to really go over the runners and riders will be when Sunak resigns and that contest begins. Now, what's prompted me to do this video today is the latest reports that Badenoch seems to be deliberately acting in an abrasive manner as part of a strategy to endear herself to party members. Because I would say that the last few weeks have actually been quite embarrassing for Badenoch, a disaster. She picked a fight with the former chair of the post office and ended up looking like a right tit. She got caught out in, I think, 4 lies in a single week. She's been arguing with journalists who, yes, may well be shilling for the Tories, but are still much more seasoned debaters than she is. And they also made her look ridiculous. To suggest this is a deliberate strategy seems suboptimal. Now, I don't know if it will work or not on party members. Like, you don't get detailed psychological studies of Conservative Party members. I know that most of them are elderly white men. I know that they can almost always be guaranteed to vote for the craziest option in a leadership contest. So sure, I can get the idea that Badenoch is trying to make herself sound the craziest. So you can infer a few things about Conservative Party members, but I don't really know the character of them. And maybe this will work. Maybe it will help her become leader. She's certainly highly regarded amongst party members and has been consistently, according to the polling carried out by Conservative Home. What I can say, with the same confidence I did about Liz Truss, is that if she does win, and she is thrust into the spotlight as Conservative leader, she's going to crash and burn. Not as spectacularly as Truss. That is mostly because she will be leader of the opposition. Her batshit proposals will never be put to the test. But before Truss's proposals were ever put to the test, her approval rating with the public fell dramatically just by opening her mouth in TV debates. When more of the public are listening to Badenoch, leader of the opposition, being made to look ridiculous in interviews and worse still at PMQs, I suspect she's going to find out exactly how Ian Duncan Smith felt. One of the most remarkable things I ever heard about IDS was that he used to dread PMQs. Absolutely ridiculous for the leader of opposition. I mean, yes, the stakes are high. Get a bit nervous. You want to put in a good performance. It's one way of presenting yourself as a credible Prime Minister in waiting, and more especially, tearing down the current Prime Minister. But there's nothing to fear for an opposition leader. Worst thing that happens if you have a bad PMQs is you fail to score any points, right? You're the one asking the questions. You don't have to answer any. You have no policies in place which are put to the test, so you can't get caught out on your own policies. How bad do you have to be as opposition leader to actually fear PMQs? Well, as it turned out, you have to be Ian Duncan Smith level bad. I think Badenoch is going to be the next version. She's now openly campaigning to be the next leader, just as Braverman's been. There's no subtlety to her efforts, and because she's entirely focused on what comes after the election defeat, rather than trying to help the government avoid that election defeat, she risks not only making herself look foolish when her arrogant pride gets pricked by taking on far more accomplished politicians and journalists alike, she also risks upsetting her own MPs. Most of her colleagues are for the chop. If many of those who remain see her as having been one of the destabilising factors in what might be a very severe loss at the election, she will not begin the next parliament with as much loyalty as she will need if she is to begin the work of rebuilding her party. And that's even assuming she wants to rebuild her party. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she thinks that all she needs to do as party leader is just keep belly aching at people, keep attacking anyone and everyone, shooting her mouth off, and as if by magic, a public which we know is sick of divisive rhetoric in politics will suddenly flock to her banner. Now, it could be argued that the Tories aren't going to have a lot of choice for their next leader, but if they do pick Badenoch, I think she's going to crash and burn. In fact, just as with Ian Duncan Smith, I'm not sure she'll last long enough to lead her party into the following general election. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.